All right, before we get into our episode, have you checked out our service providers and discount page? On it, we showcase all the different providers we use in our laundromats, and we also have been negotiating some discounts for you as well.
Yeah, if you jump on that page, it's going to show you all the different products and services companies that we use to run and operate our laundromats and our drop-off service and our pickup and delivery service here in Cincinnati. Some of them we weren't able to get any discounts on, but we're just letting you know that the product is there and this is what we use and we love it. Some of them we've been able to negotiate discounts. So today we want to feature Mopit, which is a floor mopping machine that not only mops the floor, you walk behind it. Ours is I think 21 inches wide or something like that, and it actually squeegees the floor behind you to limit liability and things like that. But to give you an idea, you can purchase these or you can lease these. But I want to tell you, when we purchase this, we use this every day at our superstore in Amelia, Ohio, and it saves us about 4 hours of labor. So think about that. If your labor is $15-20 an hour, it's saving us $50 to $75, $80 a day in labor alone, not to mention limiting liabilities. So it's a really cool machine. It does have a compartment where you put your floor soap in it and things like that. Run in the water, it dilutes it, and it does have a few little scrub brushes, but it's not a floor buffer. So I want to be clear, it's a floor mopper.
If you decide you want to try the Mopit, you can go onto our website, and if you go through the link on our website, you can actually get 5% off the purchase of the Mopit or $50 off the lease payment, whichever you prefer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So that's the discounts. That's the featured partner for today. Go check out the page. You'll see all the companies that we use there, but let's jump right into the episode.
Hello, welcome to this edition of the Laundromat Millionaire Show. Today is just Dave and I, but we have a very hot topic that we're going to be discussing. Logistics for pickup and delivery. This is definitely, if you're interested in wash, dry, fold, and delivery, this is an episode you won't want to miss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. What we're going to kind of do for you guys, and this isn't going to be a super long episode, but we're going to kind of break down the three different logistical models that, at least in our minds, how we've kind of segmented the industry. One of the things I've learned through coaching and just talking to a lot of people in the industry is that there's a lot of people out there that are doing pickup and delivery, but they're doing it very differently than maybe other people are doing it. Mm-hmm. They're doing it very differently than maybe they should be doing it, but they don't know any different. And they're maybe doing it differently than they ever even realized is possible. Mm-hmm. And so they're doing it the way maybe one person showed them to do it. Maybe that's the person that, owns the software they use, and that's how they run their business. So that's how they coached you through the process. And we have the benefit of coaching people with all different softwares and all different parts of the industry. And we've tested a lot of things ourselves. Mm-hmm. And so what we want to do is kind of just show you the options that are out there. And at the end of the day, if you know these are the options that are out there, and there's also kind of hybrids, combinations of these types of logistical models, at the end of the day, you can pick what works best for you. And we're going to give you a few parameters around what that kind of looks like.
We're just going to give you advice based on where you are and what you want to do as far as business-wise about maybe which model would be best for you. But at the end of the day, it's up to you to decide. But when we look at the costs for pickup and delivery, the two biggest areas of cost are processing, so the actual labor that goes into it. And then the second area of biggest cost is the logistics, the vehicles, the gas, the drivers. So this is a big cost area. So you definitely don't want to let it get too out of whack. And a quick and easy, well, I don't know how quick and easy it is, but a way to fix it if your costs are out of whack might be that you're using the wrong type of model. So generally speaking, we talk about three main types of models. And we actually do a whole session on this, really two sessions, one in our classroom and then one kind of in our facility with our drivers on pickup and delivery logistics. So if you attend our workshop, our wash, dry, fold, and delivery workshop, you'll get a lot of instruction on these topics. But also we do now sell our Wash, Dry, Fold, and Delivery handbook. It's called Wash, Dry, Fold, and Delivery Dynamics, the complete blueprint, the complete business blueprint. And it is over 140 full-size pages. It's got a ton of information, more than you could even imagine. But these are for sale on our website now. And they actually come with a coupon for $1,000 off the workshop. So if you buy the handbook and decide you need to see it in person, you actually get $1,000 off the workshop as well. But anyway, let's get right into it. The 3 main models for pickup and delivery. So the first one is called on demand. And we kind of call this like Uber for laundry. So you know the DoorDash and the Uber driver, as soon as you call them, right away you get a time of they're going to be at your door. Some people believe that people want this for laundry as well. They want that immediate pickup. And maybe they do, but do they have to have that immediate pickup? And that's really what we kind of question. But Dave, talk a little bit about the on-demand model.
Yeah, so the on-demand model, it's really predicated on a couple things. One, what are your ambitions? So how big of a business are you wanting to grow? Because you could be, and this is of course specific to pickup and delivery. So keep in mind, and really all 3 of these models are predicated around your ambitions and your population density within the area that you're able to service. And so we'll give you some parameters around that. Now for on-demand, to be clear, anyone could run an on-demand pickup and delivery service and they could do it successfully. Now, where we see a lot of people getting into trouble is they're trying to do an on-demand model, but they're going too far out from their store. Why would they do that? Well, they would mainly do that because there's not enough population density close to their store to meet their ambitions. And so the first on-demand model, first of all, it works great if you're in a large metropolitan area, very densely populated. As a drone rule, I always tell people if you want to build a, roughly $1 million pickup and delivery business, which there's people that have much bigger ones, but if you want to build something in that realm, you're probably going to want to service around 300,000 to 500,000 people is kind of what you're looking at. And we've kind of backed into some numbers that we probably won't go into the nitty gritty with you today on, but that gives you kind of a rough idea. If you say, hey, I don't need $1 million business, I just need a, $200,000 business. Okay, well, you can kind of break that down and say, maybe I only need to service 100,000 people as kind of a rough rule of thumb.
Just to clarify, that does not mean like we need to be delivering to 100,000 people or 300 to 500,000 people. But basically, when you draw your service area, if you want that $1 million business, assuming, roughly, 1% of them actually use your service, you want to draw your service area around roughly 300 to 500,000 people. Assuming 1,000 of them actually use your service, that should put you around $1 million business. But
and we won't go too deep into that, but to let you know kind of a rough idea of how we got that number, what we did is just took our average order size and then our price, and then how many people do we need in that area, and what percentage of penetration have we and other similar operators throughout the industry, because we have the benefit of talking to a lot of the top operators in the industry. What kind of penetration have they saw in a 3 to 5 year window when they're scaling pickup and delivery? So that gives you a kind of a rough idea without going into the numbers. So on demand, I call it dink and dunk. So on demand is exactly what it sounds like. It's somebody places an order at 10 a.m., a driver sitting there waiting for an order to come in at your store, or maybe you use DoorDash or something like that. Somebody hops in a truck or a van or a car. They go to the customer's home. They pick up the laundry, 20 minutes later. They bring it back to the store. You do the laundry, and when the laundry's done, you take it back to the customer. If that's tonight, it's tonight. If it's 2 days from now, it's 2 days from now. But as soon as the order is ready, every individual order for pickup and for drop-off is picked up and returned to them based on when the order is ready to be picked up. So immediately it's assuming it's ready to be picked up at their home or business. And then we take it back to them as soon as the order is finished being processed. Pretty simple, pretty cut and dried, not a complicated business model. One thing I will tell you is with an on-demand model, there is a lot of people out there in the industry that I think are well-intentioned, to be clear, but they're telling people that this is the only way to be successful in pickup and delivery, and nothing could be further from the truth. We have tested this model. We don't do this in Cincinnati. Our market is not big enough to justify this. Our ambitions are too big to justify this for a density population around our store. As everybody knows by now, we're on kind of the east side of Cincinnati, so we're about 25 minutes out in the suburbs. And if we were to run an on-demand service, we would only be servicing, roughly 10 to 15,000 people. And that wouldn't give us anywhere near the penetration that we want to build the business that we have.
Some things I see with the on-demand, some issues obviously are the efficiency. We like to send our trucks out and fill them up, because you're paying for that driver, you're paying for that fuel. So you want to get that vehicle as full as possible because that's more pounds that you're spreading that cost across, more money, more revenue that you're hauling that is eating up, against that cost or whatever. Another issue I see with it is I think customers probably do like the whole, you can be there right away, but what they don't like is that there's no guaranteed return time. What we found is customers care more about how long you have their laundry than how quickly you pick it up. And two, I feel like with laundry, it's not quite as immediate as with Uber and with DoorDash. When you need a ride somewhere, you need it at a certain time. You're trying to get somewhere or catch a flight or whatever. Or even when you need food, you're hungry now. But a lot of times with laundry, let's be honest, with my closet, I could go weeks without doing laundry.
Without doing laundry.
And most people, at least in our culture today, have enough clothing that they can wait a couple days for that laundry to be picked up, and then they want it back as soon as possible. So that's some of the things I feel like are lies about on-demand, myths. I guess myths would be a better word. I don't think that the customer is as sensitive to it being picked up immediately as they would be with that ride somewhere or with that food being delivered. So I don't think it's fully comparable there. But that's basically the on-demand. So with on-demand, really to be efficient, you need to stay close to your store because think about it, the further that vehicle is going, that's longer that you're paying for the driver and more fuel you're putting into your vehicle and more miles you're putting on your vehicle. So what that means logistics-wise is more cost. So the further your vehicle drives, the more that pickup of laundry is costing you. And that's where costs really get out of whack is when people are doing an on-demand service and they're doing it far from their store because their logistics are not efficient. They're not keeping those logistics costs down to justify that on-demand route.
And unfortunately, on the other side of the equation, as we touched on briefly, there's a lot of people that are doing pickup and delivery, but they're only going a few miles from their home. So they're very limited. Maybe they have a similar population density to us in Cincinnati or even worse. And they say, I could never build a big pickup and delivery business because all they know is on demand. They figured out that they can't go 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes from their business and pick up an individual order, and they don't know that anything else is available. So that's a part of why we're doing this today. So there's nothing better than free. Ever heard that before? Well, it's not true. You know what your laundromat customers like even better than free? It's fast. That's right, they want to save time more than they want to save money in most cases. They want to get in and out of your laundromat as fast as possible, and they'll pay more for that experience. We're proof of that here in Cincinnati. That's why we added HM Company drain troughs into our newest store in Cincinnati. While they may never know why, your customers will love that your washers all drain better and faster than with old school drain pipes. As if that wasn't enough, every HM drain trough is made in the USA, so they ship in only a few weeks and everyone is custom made just for you and your project. If you want to provide your customers with a top of the industry experience in your store, then contact your distributor to order your HM Company drain trough today or visit draintroughs.com. You want to cover the next one for them, Carla?
Okay, so the next one that we kind of lumped together is a window-based system. So it's kind of like an on-demand, but instead, when that customer decides they want to place an order with you, they have a window of time that you're going to be in their area that they can choose for a pickup. So let's say I place an order at 10 a.m. for my laundry to be picked up, and an on-demand, I would expect them to be there maybe 20 or 30 minutes. But with the window, I would see, okay, they're going to be in my area from 12 to 4. So I can choose that window of time for a pickup. Kind of similar to on demand, it doesn't necessarily make the most efficient logistics because, again, you're sending vehicles fairly far out and maybe not filling them up, but it is more efficient in that you're kind of lumping those orders together to a window of time that are in the same area.
Yeah, for sure. With the on-demand, just to back up for a second, with the on-demand, we always recommend that about 5 to 10 minutes is from your store in any one direction. You can go north, south, east, west, is about the largest area you should be servicing profitably, because the idea is, and I realize sometimes you go out and pick up 3 orders, but as a general rule, you'll go out and pick up 1 order, bring it back to the store, you'll pick up another one. And if you go any further than 5 or 10 minutes, and notice we didn't say mileage because it's not about distance, it's about time, the amount of time that it takes you to go out. So with an on-demand, obviously what this does is it's a little bit of a hybrid between on-demand and route-based, which is route-based is the third, and we'll get there in a second. But with an on-demand, you're kind of funneling people into a window. So they still have to choose. Your windows could be 2, 3, 4, could be even 5 or 6 hours if you wanted them to be. But you're basically telling people, instead of just coming as soon as you request us, we want you to choose a window. And by the way, if I schedule an order today at 10 a.m. in a Windows-based system, I could pick today 4 to 8 p.m., or I could pick next Thursday, 4 to 8 p.m. or 12 to 4. You can make those windows whatever you want. But the idea behind that is that people are scheduling orders, let's say in a cluster, for lack of a better term, and then they're all funneling themselves into this 12 to 4 window. And then in that 12 to 4 window, we know at 11 a.m. how many orders we have in that 12 to 4 window. We optimize that window, and we might go up, pick up 4, 5, 6 orders in that time frame. And with a Windows or with a window on demand service, you can obviously go further from your store. And so the idea is if these are just general rules of thumb, but if on demand you can go 5 to 10 minutes, we always say with a Windows on demand service you can go more like 15 minutes. If you really want to push it, maybe 20, but 10 to 15 is kind of the number you want to stick in. And so obviously we can't change our population density. It is what it is. But what we can do is what we call extend our storefront. So we can go 5 to 10 minutes from our store. We can go 15 to 20 minutes from our store. And that's kind of the idea of that. And once again, the same theory applies for all 3 of these models. Which model do you want to use? It depends on your ambition. How big of a company or how big of a business do you want to grow? And 2, what is your market like? How highly densely populated is your market? We always use New York City because it's the biggest city around. But if you're in, what I always tell people is, if you want to go just a few miles from your store, you're in the city limits in any of the top probably 20 markets in the country, you can probably build a fairly substantial pickup and delivery business without going super far from your store. Now, if you're an hour out in the suburbs of New York City or Chicago or something like that, then you need to look at those population densities. But hopefully that helps you kind of understand the first 2 types.
With windows too, I want to put a recommendation out there to you, is when you design those windows too, to make them more efficient, design your windows geographically. Don't just have a chunk so that you can, don't just buy yourself time by saying, okay, I'm not going to pick up immediately, but I'm going to push it out a few hours because that gives me time to maybe collect some more orders and optimize it. But design those windows, like maybe decide, from 12 to 4, I'm going to be north of my store. And so anybody who orders from me north of my store has to pick that window basically of whatever day. And then, maybe from 4 to 8, I'm going to be over on the east side of my store or whatever, because that will automatically help make those pickups more efficient because they're going to be closer together. So definitely think about your windows in terms of geographically, so that way when your truck goes out, it's in a smaller area and you're not wasting too much of your mileage, your gas, and your driver's time.
Fantastic point, Carla. You can have more than one truck on the road with an on-demand. You could have more than one truck on the road for a Windows-based, and we'll get into route-based in a minute here. But yeah, if you segment your market down, you can send a truck north, a truck south, a truck east, a truck west, if you had the justification for it and the volume for it. And that's going to be a big part of your success too. So don't ever forget that. Great point.
So our third model, which is the model we use in our market, is the route-based model. It's really nice because honestly, it works in any market, in that when our customer decides they want to place an order basically they have certain days to choose from. So it's kind of like the window model, only instead of being a chunk of hours, it's an entire day. So we have certain days that we pick up in different areas around our store. And then we fully optimize those routes to make them as efficient as possible. Another thing with the route-based model is we make sure that when a customer gets on there to request an order, they never have to wait more than 3 days for us to be in their area. So there's some art there to designing those routes and setting those days.
Yeah, and with the 3 days, what we've learned is that's kind of the sweet spot. Now, we say it all the time, but we've been doing pickup and delivery for about 8 years in Cincinnati, but we've been coaching people on pickup and delivery and how to launch, scale, and optimize for a solid 5 to 6 years. And so we've worked with people in all markets of the country with all ambitions, different population densities in different parts of the country. And so we've been able to kind of tweak these things to make their business successful based on their ambitions. One of the things we love about a route-based system is it works in any market in the country. And Carla mentioned the 3 days. That may sound like a long time, but she touched on it a minute ago. You have to remember, one of the things that we've learned through coaching hundreds of people in hundreds of markets and picking up and delivering millions of pounds of laundry ourselves is most customers, and yes, there are the exception, but most customers, our ideal avatar, they're not focused on how quickly we pick up their laundry, despite what we may think. And when they place the first order, sometimes they are focused on how quickly. But if you pick it up and then you say we don't return it back for 4 days, all of a sudden their focus shifts to, wait a second, this is when you have my laundry. And so what we've learned is in some cases we actually have to train customers so that they understand. They think they want on demand, but they don't. They actually want a route-based system, and they don't understand.
They want a
the
quick
difference.
turnaround.
Yes, correct. So what we always tell people is focus much more on how quickly you can get your laundry back to them and how efficiently you can pick up the laundry. Because the more efficiently you pick up the laundry, the more money you can spend. You're not spending, 50% of your revenue on logistics. So if you're only spending 15% of your revenue on logistics, you can spend 40 or 50% of your revenue on the processing, and you can turn it around a lot faster. So what we always tell people in our workshops, Carla mentioned, was that keep in mind that you're not in the laundry business. You're in the trust business. And make no mistake, you are in the trust business. If you're in the trust business, what's harder for a customer, for a consumer? Is it harder for them to trust you once they place an order and then you tell them, on Monday we'll be out on Thursday to pick up your laundry? Okay, they just wait 3 days. And worst case scenario, you don't show up, which hopefully that never happens. Now let's take the flip side and say they place an order on a Monday, you pick it up on a Monday, and you don't have a time that you return it to them. You just say, we'll bring it back to you when it's done. And let's say that's Thursday. Well, they're going to get awful antsy on Tuesday afternoon, wondering how long are you keeping my laundry? So what we've learned through coaching hundreds of clients in different markets of the country is that way too many operators focus on trying to be as efficient as possible on the logistics side and trying to be there as quickly as possible. And then they don't have the margin, for lack of a better term, they don't have the margin to process it quickly. So they try to make that up on the back end in processing. And the best way to do that is to push it out a day, push it out 2 days, push it out 3 days.
Try to use your attendance to process it.
That's exactly right. And so obviously we don't have the time or the technology here to get into all the nerdy details that we teach in the workshop or in our blueprint handbook. But at the same time, these are some foundational things that maybe will just improve your business a little bit. So a few more things on the route-based system. Did you have something you want to say?
Oh, I was just going to go into, with the route-based system, we did say it can work in any market, but also it allows you to extend further out from your door front. Or storefront. It's storefront, isn't it? So we recommend you can go as far out as like 30 minutes from your store and still have a very efficient, cost-effective level of logistics. Going out beyond that, unless there is just a real, as Dave calls it, a honey hole, so just like a place that you can pick up a ton of orders, the further you go out, obviously your costs do increase because of time and mileage and all of that. So it does make it a little harder to be profitable unless you can pick up a whole lot of orders. So we do recommend that 30-minute time frame. But other than that, it can really work in any market as long as you have the population within that 30 minutes from your store.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify. So when we say 30 minutes from your store, once again, that sounds like a long ways. But you have to remember, would you send a truck 30 minutes from your store if every Monday and every Thursday They went out, and for the last 3 days, people had been slowly but surely scheduling for that Monday or for that Thursday for a pickup. And on day 1, you might have 5 orders, and day 2, you might have 15, and day 3, you might have 35. Well, by day 3, when you come in that morning and you optimize your route, you open up that route, which we do as part of our Sense software, but you can do with any software, and you're going to optimize all 35 customers, because that morning before you leave your store, you're going to know I have 35 pickups today. If you know your average order size is 43 pounds per pickup,
that's our average.
That's our average. Then do the math. You're going to be picking up over 1,000 pounds of laundry. So you can send a truck a half an hour from your store into a different suburb, a different part of the market. And in that part of the market, they're going to travel around and they're going to pick up 35 orders all in the same area. Typically anywhere from 3 to 5 zip codes is about what ours are each of our routes. They're going to pick up 1,000 pounds of laundry in 5 hours. And then they're going to bring it back. So they're going to travel a half hour or 30 minutes back to the store. So in 6 hours, they picked up 1,000 pounds of laundry. Well, you do the math on the logistics of what it costs per pound, and it's not a big number. And you really haven't inconvenienced your customers. Now, once again, I'll be clear. If you have somebody that absolutely needs their laundry picked up today and they absolutely need it back in 3 hours, you're not the customer for that, or they're not the customer for you. So that's another thing that we teach in the workshop pretty extensively is you have to understand who your ideal avatar is and that you can't service everybody. You can't be everything to everyone. And when you try to do that, you're going to really hurt your business. And that's where you're not going to be profitable. You're going to find yourself very, very frustrated.
So getting a little more into the route-based system, a little bit about our route design is, remember that 3-day thing. We never want it to be more than 3 days when someone gets on our website and tries to schedule an order. So do make sure that you're in every zip code at least twice a week. Now, how we do this is we do pickups. We have like one route that does pickups on Monday, Thursday, and then delivery on Tuesday, Friday. We have another route that does pickups Tuesday, Friday, delivery Wednesday, Saturday. So that's kind of how we arrange it. And that separates it where if they get on, it's never more than 3 days. Another thing is we actually do our pickups and our deliveries separately, obviously. I know some people that we've talked to, they will, if they're in a zip code, they will both pick up laundry and drop off laundry within the same zip code while they're there. And there are some efficiencies to that. For us, we do not do that for a couple of reasons. One, our trucks, when they pick up, they're pretty full. Like we honestly, in our trucks, we have a large enough customer base at this point where our trucks could not fit both pickups and drop-offs at the same time. They would be too full. But another reason for that is we kind of have a little buy-in for some extra time for processing. One thing that we think is critical is that next day guaranteed turnaround. Like we said in the beginning, this is a trust business. People spend a lot of money on their clothes. People get emotionally attached to some of their clothes, that favorite hoodie or whatever. So they're trusting us with their clothing. And so we want to make sure that we get it back to them as soon as we can. So we have that next day turnaround. Now, notice I did say next day turnaround, not 24 hours. And that's part of the pickup versus drop off. So we do our pickups in the morning. And then when those trucks come back and, put their loads in or whatever, to the facility, then they pick up the clean laundry and drop off those orders. We use a third shift processing crew for our pickup and delivery, but if they ever have a night where someone calls in sick and they're shorthanded, or we just had a ton of laundry picked up and they can't get it all done during that third shift, that buys us a little time at that morning where we have our managers, we have our store attendant, we can even call in extra staff as needed to make sure that laundry all gets processed. While our drivers are doing pickups during the morning, we can still be finishing that laundry for the drop-offs in the afternoon.
Yeah. And things like, we don't have time to go into this episode, but things like redundancies, knowing who your ideal avatar is, knowing what happens when you have a high volume day. How do you make up for that, right? Having those what we call cheats in the system is all part of our plan. It's all part of our business model. It's all, of course, things we teach you in the blueprint there, but in the workshop. But keep in mind, it's also, they all complement each other. So when you're running a pickup and delivery business, you can't just make a logistical decision based only on logistics, because what you do in logistics and how you do it, and every 5 minutes that you cheat or steal or don't cheat or steal from the next morning, as an example, that's going to affect your processing. It's going to affect your processing speed. It's going to affect who you call in and whether you have to pay overtime. It's going to affect how much they're compensated, because different people's positions are compensated differently. And those are all going to go to your bottom line. So this is, even though this podcast is just about your logistical decisions, you need to understand that logistical decisions have consequences in processing, not only in the beginning, but in the end of the process. And that cheat code that Carla referred to of being able to cheat an extra 3 or 4 hours out of the day tomorrow is all part of the process. Now, in a perfect world, we go pick up the laundry. It's all optimized. We're, doing 20, 30 minutes from our store. We're dividing by zip codes, or we're geofencing. We're going through these whole processes. We're funneling you into a day rather than a window or an on-demand service. And we're picking up the laundry on Tuesday and we're dropping it back off on Wednesday, but we might pick it up first thing in the morning on Tuesday and drop it off at 6 o'clock in the evening on the next day. Well, if we do that, we've cheated it. Instead of a 24-hour turnaround time. One of the things we had to figure out through the School of Hard Knocks is there's a difference in 24 hours and next day. Next day, if you pick up at 8 a.m. today, you could, in theory, drop off at 8 a.m. tomorrow if you wanted to, and you had 36 hours to pick up and drop off and process the close. So you actually cheated a whole nother 12 hours out of the day and still honored your guarantee and still kept that trust. So those are just all parts of the equation that we want you to kind of understand. Like I said, how you process laundry, if you do an assembly line mentality, if you do third shift, second shift, if you have dedicated processors, if you farm it out to a local laundromat and they can't turn it around fast enough. All of these things have ramifications on your logistical business model. So we're certainly not here to suggest if you do X, Y, and Z logistically, you'll automatically be successful. That's not really how this works. But we really, in this podcast, just wanted to lay out the 3 different types of models, and you can tweak them a little bit. You could do a 2-hour window, which isn't drastically different than an on-demand model. As Carla mentioned, you can send a truck north, another truck south, a truck east, and a truck west, and you could be on demand and have 4 drivers going in 4 different directions.
Or you could do 6-hour windows and be a little more like a route-based system.
Correct. And so these are all things you have to consider. Obviously, we have the way that we do business here in Cincinnati, but we have tested and tweaked pretty much all of these things to a certain extent over the last 8 years. And we've definitely tested all these things with all of our coaching clients. And we get, people that come to our workshops, they love to challenge us and we love to be challenged. So they come into the workshops and they have their own ideas of how they're doing pickup and delivery. Some of them don't. Some of them haven't launched yet, which is fine. But a lot of them come in and they're already doing it this way. And we'll look and we'll say, well, if you did X, this would actually change Y. And all of a sudden you'd find 15% more profit than you would doing it the way you're doing it now with one little tweak. But then we also have to kind of hold their hand through the workshop and say, but understand, if you do this, it's going to affect this. And how often do we hear, Carla, I didn't think about that.
Yes.
Like the X made sense, but the Y, I didn't think about that so much. So that's
in our workshop too, we actually walk them through kind of designing routes and all that kind of stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, we have 2 days with you.
Yeah.
If you're not familiar, the workshop goes from 8 a.m. one day to midnight the first day, and from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. the second day. So it's 2 long, intensive days.
At the end of the day, it's all about, if you're doing pickup and delivery, you want to make sure you're making a profit. So know your costs. For us, we try to keep our logistics costs. Our target is 16% and always below 20% of our gross revenue. So that gives you an idea of a target, at least for us. At the end of the day, though, know your costs. And if you find your logistic costs are way out of whack, maybe you need to reevaluate what model you're using. So definitely look through some of our guidelines. How far are you going from your store? And see if maybe a different model would be a more profitable choice for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Want more profits out of your laundromat business? Let us tell you about our new company, LaundroBoost, and how it can help you to boost your profits. You may be thinking you've used digital marketing companies before and they wasted your time and money. Well, that's why LaundroBoost was born. As 14-year veteran laundromat operators ourselves, we've been there, and it's sickening.
So what makes LaundroBoost different? Our team combines technical digital marketing with veteran laundromat operators and coaches to give your campaigns the ideal blend for getting you results. But then we take it a step further with our strategy. Our strategy is to be hyper vigilant with every marketing dollar. So no fluff.
Yeah, in the beginning, we focus on a three-pronged approach that we think is unique in the industry. The first is website design and landing pages, making sure those are honed in properly. The second is daily analytics studies and strategy with your Google AdWords campaigns. And the third is geofencing. It focuses on your nearest competitors and where your ideal customers live and where they shop. We believe we've got something special, and we've spent our own dollars here in Cincinnati to test it, and we're growing faster now than ever before.
To learn more, schedule a free discovery call and market study for your market. Visit laundroboostmarketing.com today.
All right, before we go today, we just want to give you a quick, 60-second synopsis of the blueprint that we're putting out there, because we don't want you to think this is, I think you mentioned it, Carla, it's a 140-page operating manual. So real quickly, let's go through what it includes in the handbook.
Okay, so basically the handbook goes along with our workshop. A lot of the information that's in our workshop is in this book as well. But of course, you don't get to see it in person. But if you go onto our website, there is a page all about our workshop, and it does show you the table of contents, so you can see specifically what topics are covered. Everything from how to process the laundry, how to deliver the laundry. All of our standard operating procedures for pickup and delivery are in this as well. It detailed how you fold every single different item that could come into your store, how to package it. So everything's in here, along with marketing, tips for marketing, who should be your ideal avatar based on our experience. So like we said, it's over 140 pages. There's a ton of information and diagrams and pictures, and it also comes with a coupon for $1,000 off of our workshop if you decide you would like to attend that as well.
Yeah, and to give you a couple categories real quick, in case you're wondering, I don't want you to think this is logistics only. This is our entire business model in a handbook.
Talks about the finances. It talks about the processing. It talks about the logistics. It talks about the marketing. It talks about
how to fold and package laundry, how we fold and package laundry, and not just theory. It actually goes step by step for probably 10, 15 pages on how to fold and package in the art that is. It includes our supplies list, where we buy our poly bags, where we buy this, where we buy that, what software we use. All these different things.
The formulas for paying our processors, our incentive-based pay structure, how we hire, our training processes, where we find good employees, how we train them.
Every SOP in our pickup and delivery wash, dry, fold business model is documented. Every SOP we've built over the last 8 years is documented. Every automation we have for email marketing, text marketing, things like that is all documented in this handbook, and it's all included. But we want to make this available to you, and we're not under the impression that, at least a lot of the industry will take 100% of this and mimic 100% of our business model. But our idea is if you purchase this handbook, or if you attend the workshop, or both, because you get the coupon, then maybe only take 10% of what we teach you. But imagine if you didn't have to learn through the School of Hard Knocks 10, 20, 30%. But we do have many people that do try to mimic 100% of our business model. And we can tell you with confidence that our business model, all the synergies that are built into, all the automation, all the processes and the training and the compensation, all of that has synergy. It all works together to give you a 30 to 35% margin or profit on your business. And so that's ultimately what we're trying to do. There's too many people in our industry that have launched and trying to scale pickup and delivery, and they give up. They give up because it might be something as simple as not knowing the difference in on-demand or a route-based system. Now, there might be other components too.
Well, there's a whole session. There's a whole set. Sure. We call them sessions because it goes along with our pickup and delivery workshop, but they're chapters. And there's a whole chapter on the most common mistakes and where people fail and how to avoid those common mistakes as well.
Yeah. So the good news is you can purchase the handbook. We know that not everyone can attend our workshops. And to be honest with you, we only do 2 or 3 of them a year. They're limited to 20 people. So even if everybody wanted to, we could never help everyone in the workshop. And we've had a lot of you ask, is there a virtual option for the workshop? There is not. This is a hands-on. You have to be in the store and see these things happen.
This is about as virtual as you get.
And that's where that came
Otherwise,
from.
I know this was our virtual workshop. It's basically all kind of written out for you, but there's really no substitute to experiencing the processes. So Yeah.
So we're hoping that helps, some people that can't get to the workshop.
It's cheaper than the workshop. So
Well,
if you
of
can't
course.
afford the workshop as
Yeah,
well.
not everybody can afford it. Maybe you can't afford it right now. So you purchase the handbook. It helps you get 20% of the way there. Your business is more profitable than it used to be. Maybe not as profitable as it could be, but better than it used to be. And maybe those newfound profits allow you to afford to come to the next workshop, and especially with a coupon. So, but hopefully this podcast gave you a little bit more information. Once again, if you just take one little golden nugget from this podcast, it might make your business 2% better. And that's why we continue to produce content like this for you for free. So keep that in mind. That's all we have for today. For Dave and my beautiful wife, Carla, here in Cincinnati, Ohio, we will see you next time for another episode of the Laundromat Millionaire Show. Take care, everyone.
Bye.